Shows a lot more of how cool you are. And you shouldn't see, because I clicked on the one of the interfaces, I'm already on that interface. Let me exit first. Let's go to complete exit and exit again, and just end actually. This will take some time because we don't have a DNS configured yet, so it's trying to resolve that command, the end command. I'm supposed to type exit. So let me just give some time and let it just go off, and then we can come back and command line. Still trying to resolve itself. I hate when that happens. Pressing the wrong or typing the wrong command. Anyways, once let's wait for this guy to close. But in the meantime, we go to this other switch over the second switch on the HR side. Okay, so this is what I was interested in. The first, when you power up a Cisco switch or any Cisco devices, the first menu or the first interface or menu link. Sorry, what am I saying? The first uh, opener of your iOS command line layout would be your user modes. Okay, there are various modes in most of Cisco or most of the network devices and the iOS configurations. You do have, for the Cisco, you do have uh, the user mode. This is the user mode. The user mode is identified by the greater than sign. Whenever you see that greater than sign attached to the name of the switch itself or the default switch name, you know you're at the user mode. So the user mode, what can you do? This way you basically have logins. So you can have login setups. So when the machine powers up, you have that login interface that pops out that allows users to log in a credential before they can have access to the device. Okay, so it's very essential, very important, that you put logins on your switches or your network devices. So it's not wide open to the entire network. So anybody who's in the office can easily access your switches, and if they understand a bit of the command line interface for that particular device or vendor, then you can start modifying settings on your network devices, which is not very, very good. It's not secure, it's not safe, it's not the most professional way to uh, manage your network infrastructures. So ideally you put login. So this is the user interface or the user mode gives you access to this login. To move from the user mode to the next mode, which would be the privilege mode, you type enable. Enable is the command that basically moves you from the user mode to the next mode, which is the privilege mode. And a privilege mode is identified by the hashtag. So whenever you see the hashtag, you know you're within the privilege mode. The privilege mode allows you to basically check some of the key settings, features, and other properties that a switch has. Like for instance, I want to show the switch version, the iOS sitting on it, running on it, the interfaces and uptime and what have you. Show version is the command I want to use. Keep that in mind. Show is one of the key commands that you're going to be using very often. At the privilege mode, show interface properties or show interface status, brief, show interface IP address. If you want to show the various properties of particular of the various interfaces or the device itself, the show command helps you at the privilege level or mode. So show version, and then you see the device itself, its properties in terms of memory. So you do have the iOS, or the name of the device, the name of the switch itself, the versions, um, what else? A number of stuff. You have the uh, Ethernet MAC address, the motherboard assembly serial numbers, power parts, motherboard serial numbers, serial numbers for the power as well. You have the model revision numbers, model number itself, system serial numbers, assembly parts, what else? And then the software, the iOS software version as well. In this case, you have the image is C2960 land base M. And the models, obviously, the WS C2960 model with 24 port interface, fingerprint registration, and what have you. So you have the basic setups. You should also have, if I'm not mistaken, the time that's been running or how long it's been running. Let me see if I can find that. What's the time? Okay, compile date when the date was when the system was compiled. Copyright informations. Uh, uptime. Okay. I don't see the uptime. Anyways, you do have most of the basic device properties showing up at the show version. If you type the show version command, that gives you that information. Okay, and then you can send show command, show interfaces. So you want to see the interfaces that the device has. The question mark is a good command to use if you're within a particular command and you want to know kind of properties or other command lines. You have options to privilege that you have. So if you use the interface, you type interface, the next command you can type Ethernet, fast Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet, port channel VLANs, Ether channels, data, switch port trunks, and what have you. So I'm gonna say show interface status. So we can see the status of all the interfaces that we have. And then you have all the interfaces, the 24 plus the 2 gig interfaces. It tells you that the first five are connected to machines, obviously. They're connected and they're all on VLAN 1 by default. The rest are not connected yet, they have nothing connected to them. Let me see. Yes, because you notice that we connected on a design, we do have the router connected to the switch, but because the interface on the router is not on yet, it tells you that even the interface is still off. The gigabit interface, I think we're using a 2, is still off, indicating that there's no connectivity established on it yet or enabled on it yet, even though you have the cables connected. And that's simply because you don't have the router's interface turned on. So by default, just assume that it's not connected because there's nothing going on. Okay, so you do have that. And then what else? And then now the next, so this is the privilege mode. The next mode is your configuration mode. The configuration mode or your access mode to actually configure the devices. It should be configuration mode or access privilege mode. So you have the user privilege mode. So your privilege mode, you have the user mode first, and you have the privilege mode, and then you do have the configuration mode. Okay, so to go into configuration mode, you have to type configuration or configure terminal, and that will put you into the configuration mode. So this is where you basically have access to configuring the switches, interfaces, add various key settings to it. Like for instance, I want to change the name of the switch, so I'm going to use uh, what should we call it? Host name. Host name is a command to change the switch name, and I'm going to use SW1. Or this we are in the HR, right? So I'm going to use HR switch, HR hyphen SW1. So it means the switch is HR. It's an HR department and happens to be the first one of the switches. If we add another switch, it'll be what's two, and you can use SW2. So you notice the default switch name has changed to the new one, which is the HR hyphen SW1. So that'll be the new name for the switch using the command host name. You can also assign IP address to the switch and what have you. We're not going to get to that yet. Other settings. Let's say, for instance, you want to manage interface. Say, for instance, you have a user on the HR department that's downloading maybe unauthorized resources on the internet, or accessing porn sites or what have you, basically accessing unauthorized resources. You can pretty much turn that particular device off if you notice huge transmission activity on that particular switch, that this particular on the switch on the switch that particular end device is connected to. So in this case, we're going to assume that PC0 connecting to interface port 0, fast Ethernet 01 interface, has got a lot of traffic on it, and based on your packet analysis, I realized that he's been accessing pornographic sites or unauthorized resources. Then what you can do is go to the interface. So I'll go to the interface. So that's interface F. That's the name of the interface 01. That's the default name. So it's right up here. You can just check FA01. So when I hit enter, I'm on that particular interface now, and I can just type the word command. The command to basically shut up that interface is just the word shut down, sorry. Shuts down. Now watch what happens when I hit enter. It will shut off that interface. It will go red. This interface will go red, which means there's no connectivity between PC1 and the switch any longer. Notice that? So now that interface is off. That user is been completely shut off from the network. So no more access to porn site or unauthorized resources anymore. It's gone, pretty much. That's how you basically manage, users on your devices on your network that are misbehaving or that are not conforming to your corporate policies of how to use your network resources that you have at the disposal. Okay, you don't have to get up and go to the user's office or units and it's able to cable any longer. No, you can just be in your unit. As an IT guy, you can just go into be in your department or your unit, whatever, the IT office, and then remote. If you have IP address assigned to the switches for remote services, you can just remote onto the switch that a particular device is connected to, and then access the interface that's connected to, and then just disable that interface by shutting it down, and now no more connectivity. And you're gonna notice that after a while, the user will start complaining. I'm not getting connectivity. Probably gonna call you and say, "Hey, IT guy, these days, just a few minutes ago, I noticed that my connectivity is off. I have no internet. I can't access anything on the network." Then you know that that's the person obviously accessing the unauthorized resources that you shut off. So that's where that's where you can go ahead and explain to the person what happened. You can tell, hey, we noticed an unusual access to unauthorized resources on our network from your machine. That's why we shut you off. So if you're gonna keep, and then if you have for evidence purposes, you can even show him some of the packet analysis of the sites, unauthorized sites that you've been accessing, as a form of warning or evidence to indicate why you shut them off or her off. Just to let us know that okay, the network administrator or officer is monitoring every activity that's going on his network, which you should be doing as a network administrator. Anyways, you should be monitoring the network very consistent, so very frequently, so you're up to date with whatever's going on within your network. Okay. So once you inform that user that, they probably say, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. It just happened, and okay, from this point, I'm not gonna do that again. Can you put me back online or get back online?" Okay, sure. Just go back to your office, and I'll have your link. By the time you get to your office, I'll have your link up and running. So once he leaves, just go back to the interface, and now to basically turn back the interface on, you just type the reverse command, no shutdown, and watch, it's up again now. So the interface is on now. So by the time he gets to the office, he'd have what connectivity up and running on this machine now. Hopefully, he will not be accessing those resources anymore because now he knows people are watching. The network administrator is watching his moves on a regular basis, so he knows he's not going to be he's not going to be attempting that any longer. Otherwise, that could basically be forwarded to escalated to maybe management for disciplinary actions to be taken. Could be fired the person, or or maybe let him go for some time, taking a break or whatever, But generally, just as a network administrator, you don't have to make your work difficult if you have a really well structured network. You want to run your units or your network very efficiently without even getting off your seat. Okay? And you have to be on top of your network on a daily basis, on a regular, consistent basis. That's what makes you a proactive, network administrator. So anyway, folks, that's how you shut off a link and change the default switch names on your computer device. So we talked about the modes: the user mode, which has the greater than sign, the hashtag for the privilege, and then the configure terminal mode for the configuration mode, or whatever you have where you have access to do most of the little configuration you want to put on your devices. Okay, great. To move on back to if you want to move to one level down, you can just tap exit. That takes you one level down. So if you want to exit from one level to another, or one command interface to another, exit is the command to use. So exit, exit. Now we come back to the uh, privilege mode. Okay, and that exit will put us back into the user mode. So that's the user mode. Very good, guys. Enable. Go to privilege mode. And every time you do modifications on your devices, always save them. Okay. The command to save. Okay. Before that, Cisco has got a number of help commands you can uh, use if you're stuck. And one of them is just the help key, which is the exclamation, sorry, the question mark sign. You type that, it should show you all the commands that you'd have at a given interface or level or mode that you find yourself. So at the privilege mode, you do have clear, clock configurations, connect, copy, debug, delete directories, disable, disconnect, enable, blah, blah, blah. A number of key stuff. Resume setup, show, more VLANs, write. We're interested in the write one. So write is where you write all your configurations to memory, so you don't lose them when a device goes off. So we've written the configurations, what we've done. So when a machine shuts off and she reshuts back on, those configurations from the name change, the switch name change to what have we just we enable and disable in an interface. Anyway, critical configurations will still run in memory or will still load from memory. Okay, so writing is very essential. Now, once you're done with write, it's always also advisable to um, copy running configuration to start configuration. So basically, this command just says that uh, the the current configuration that we've done should be copied from the running configuration mode to the startup configuration mode. So when it comes to device starting up, which technically starts from the startup configuration mode in memory, it should load all that's in running into the startup configuration mode. So when a device loads up, the first configuration load should be whatever we've already done on a running configuration. So every time you configure new setups, always copy the running configuration to startup. So it become updated. So always your startup configuration are always updated with the current configurations that you have or current running configurations that you have implemented. Okay. And then you hit enter. It says yes, destination file is startup config file. Yes. So now we have our current configuration now set up on the startup configurations. So when the device loads, it loads the first configuration loads should be the startup configuration files. Great. We close that. Let's go back to this over here, the finance. So it's back up now, the same thing as well. Enable, or you can type EN for short for enable to move from the user mode to the privilege mode. And the same things. I'm going to go to the from the privilege mode to the configuration mode. Configure T. If you don't want to type the entire configuration, the entire configured terminal, you can just type config T. It also puts you into the configuration terminal. And first thing, I'm going to change the host name, the switch name, to I'm on the finance part, so I'm going to use finance SW hyphen, use fin SW1. So I have the finance switch name, and I can do a number of stuff like 10 machines on and off, 10 interface ports on and off, what have you. But that's what I need for now. So I'm going to exit, and then I'm going to write and copy run to start. So great. So folks, that's basic, knowledge on some of the little commands that you need to understand with Cisco devices or on the Cisco command line interfaces. There's a whole bunch of commands, but that requires you to go through a whole training program and get certifications and all of that if you want to go to advanced level with the Cisco or be a Cisco uh, uh, administrator, network system administrator or network system engineer, and you'd have to go through the entire course and learn how some of these things are done or some of the numerous commands or configurations that you do have. But for now, this is the most basic one. Okay, like I said, there are a lot more. Just you have to read, watch a lot more videos, and what have you. Just for starters, for startup only. Okay, it's a simple learn setup, simple startup. Okay, so now we can come back to our router now because now we want to make sure there's connectivity between the two departments so they can talk. Okay, we want to have two departments talk to each other. So we go to the router now, and this will be the back of the router for the 1800 series. Oh no, for the 1900 series. Command line interface. It was when you go to that part, you see this. Always type no. If you say yes, automatic configuration. I don't like it very much. I prefer to go my own way, and that requires that you know what you're doing. So once again, we got a user level, user mode, enable, let's go to configuration mode, and config terminal, and I want to change the router name to host name. I'm going to say this main router, main RT for the organization. Enter. So we have our main router set up. Now we did have two interfaces. We need to turn them on and assign IP addresses to them. But before we turn them on, we have to assign IP address first. Before you turn interfaces on the router, assign IP addresses. Okay, so we have to identify the interfaces that are connected to which network or which of the various units, so we can know what kind of IP address to assign to them. So let me document this first. So on this side, we do have let me see, cursor here. We have gig 01 interfacing the finance department. Gig 01 interfacing the finance department. So we're going to assign the IP address on this interface be 192.168.1.1. That's the 1.1 network, or this is the one network. So I want the gateway to be on this interface, which is housing for the interface of a G 01. So that's the interface that we need to assign this IP to. And then on this side, it's a G00. That's on the HR side. So 192.168.2.1 on interface G00. So these are very important information when it comes to the configurations of our router. Okay, so now we have that. Click on it. So let's start with the assignment of IP address or our gateway IP addresses for the various units that we have, departments that we have. So the first one will be interface G01 for the finance, and I'm going to describe it. Description: finance gateway GW. So that's a description for that interface, and an IP address of 192.168. If you want to assign IP address, the command is IP address, and then the IP address you want to assign .1.1, and then obviously you do have your subnet mask, always important, at 0. And once you hit that, enter, and now you have an IP address on this interface here. Now let's turn the interface on by command no shutdown. No shut down. Enter. Now it's green now, indicating that the interface is now it's initializing its state to on. So give some time for everything to become green. While this is ongoing, we can go to this side as well. We can go to the other interface, which would be interface G00, which is on this side, on the HR side, and I have an IP address of 192.168.2.1 and subnet mask of 255.255.0. Enter, and then once again, no shutdown on our interface as well. It's also green now. So now both interfaces are becoming online. Are they getting up online now? Now this is already done. So it means traffic can now flow from here, from the finance network or the finance department through the router or to the gateway, and hopefully down to what the other networks, which we'll get to that part later. Okay. Um, I think I also jumped the gun somewhere. I need to go back something real quick. Uh, First of all, let me just save my configurations. So I'm going to exit, exit, and I'm going to write to memory and then copy, run to startup. Great. And I can just close down. Now, if you notice, we have static IP assignment on our devices. And if you're going to have, if you have a server on your network and your routers, with end devices, ideally you shouldn't go static. You should go with dynamic. So you should be able to configure DHCP on device on your server or on your router to handle uh, uh, dynamic IP leases for your end device. It's very, very important that you do that. So you don't have to be doing it manually. If you have to, so it means that if you add another machine, there will really need to go and assign static IP address any longer. You just let a DHCP server handle the IP address leases. So in this setup here, we're going to allow our server to handle DHCP by enabling DHCP services on them. And to do that, you go to the server, go to services, and then go to DHCP, and then you have to enable the service. And then let's change the pool over here too. Let's see, let's use, I'm on the finance side. I'm going to say finance pool. So that'll be the pool for its DHCP leases. Its default gate will be the 192 from the router, 168.1.1. Well, we're not gonna implement DNS now. Later on, and then we want our IP address to start from 192.168.1.100. And once that is set up, you wanna save it. Oh, okay. So let me delete this pool here. We don't want this pool. I can remove the default pool. Okay. For some reason, you can delete this default pool. So I'm gonna make. I'm just gonna. I'm gonna remove this pool and then just use the existing pool that we have. So default 192.168.1.1, and I'm going to start with 100 and then save that. Oh, sorry, 1.1. So save it, and always make sure it's saved. Save, 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 save. So you have 100 for default server pool, 100 starting gateway IP address is 1.1, and service is always on. Save, 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 save. Make sure it registers. So you have your default IP address, no DNS now, starting point, starting from 100 with a subnet mask of 255.255 with 255 or slash 24, and a maximum IP or number of users or IP allocation of 156, which makes sense because 256 out of starting from 100 will give you 156 left. Perfect. And then once you're done, you can close it. I also have to check again to see if it actually took effect. Still effect, so that's good. And then I will go to devices and then disable static and make the DHCP now. So Now they have assignment automatically. Same applies to this, guys. Desktop DHCP. That's 101, like before. 102 defaults. And then we go to this other unit as well. And the same thing, services, DHCP, enable, default gateway 192.168.1, sorry, 2.1 here because we're on the HR side and it has a default gateway of 2.1. And I'm going to start from 100 as usual. What else do we need to do? And then we just save it. Make sure it's registered. So you have 2.1 gateway starting from 100. Save. It's registered. And you exit. Check again. Make sure it's there. It hasn't changed. Looks perfectly in there. And then you go to devices. And then you have dynamic enable now. So now we move from static to dynamic. So now we don't have to be typing the IP address manually any longer. We are allowing the DHCP server to handle that services for us, which is always a good thing because manual assignment just takes too much time. So allow a DHCP server to handle some of these things for you. It makes it work a whole lot easier. So once you add a new machine, once it's connected to the network, it will start requesting for what? An IP address. And then when the server gets that message, it will automatically, leaves an IP address to that device automatically. You have an IP address, static, dynamic now. Perfect. Dynamic now. Great. So now all of our devices are dynamically configured. Okay. That's good then. Now let's see if we can now actually reach the two networks back and forth, or if we can reach the two networks from different networks or different departments. So we're going to start first from finance department. Can access the HR server. First of all, let's do a ping first. Always do a ping first. Ping your gateway, because that will give you access to, that will basically give you information as to whether you can actually go out of your network or not. So 1.1. I can reach my gateway. So I'm here. I can move packet from here all the way up to my gateway. This interface over here. And let's say we can actually access the HR's gateway. Then that also give us more information on whether really we can move packet across the two networks. So now it's what? The finance gateway 2.1. I can reach it, so that's a good thing. So it means that from here, we can go all the way to here and all the way to this side, or this interface, which is actually facing the HR department. So on the finance side, we can reach all the way up to what? The finance, all the way to the HR department gateway. That's a good thing. Now let's see if we can actually reach a device, in this case a server. So the first service IP address is 2.10, right? So you notice we cannot access it. So we do have a bit of a challenge. Configuration, I think we missed something on the DHCP side. The servers have DHCP enabled, but unfortunately we did not add the gateway to servers. There are new gateways now, which in this case 192.168. For this network 2.1, because there's two network. So we have that. It's very essential to have the gateway so the routers can, this device can know how to forward packets to them. The wrong matrix. Okay, it's 192.168.1.2.1. Okay, and then this should desktop. Then this should have the ones. 1.1. Okay, so now moment of truth. Let's see if we can move packet across now. Here. Trying to clear this interface. So ping ping 192. So I'm on PC2 on the finance side, and I want to see if I can reach server, the HR server, which is 2.10, right? And it's going through. Voila! So now you have transmission across the two departments now. So that's a good thing. Let's do a reverse. Let's you can actually access some of the machines on that side. Let's see, 100. 2.100 should come up very soon. Do I have 2.100? Timing, okay, that's it. And then 2.101. Some time to establish connectivity, but I surely will go through because now we can access, have the router in place to help us maneuver across. Now let's go from that way across, from the HR department to the finance server. So let's say users here wants to know their salaries, whether it's been paid or not, what kind of salary increments have been implemented and stuff like that from the finance server. So we go to that, and now we go to one. First of all, so you can access the gateway first. We can access the gateway. So from here, we can go all the way across to this interface. We can obviously hit our own gateway, which is much more closer. And then from there, we can hit the other gateway on the finance side. Now let's see if we can access the finance server now, which is 1.10, remember? So we from here can access the server on the finance side from the HR department. Enter. And we have access as well. What about other PCs on there? Yes, they're also responding. Quick moment, it should be up. There you go. So basically, we do have interconnectivity across our setup now from the two departments. Now the two departments can easily talk to each other smoothly without any hindrances or obstacles across them. Okay? Thanks to all the configurations we put in place, we have the two networks now talking to each other. So once this is set up, you practically have a good intranet setup that you can use to deploy services to your end devices or to your employees or your staff within the organization without a need for internet, which most some corporate organizations insist on. The internet is only required when you want to forward packets to external networks that are beyond your control. But in an organization where they feel like they want to keep the employees working at optimal productivity level, I always advise you shut out the internet and house everything indoors, so internally, within your intranet, and let users use that. So emails and websites or social media stuff, you just block them off, you shut them off. Let the users work, get the most out of them. You're paying them for their services, right? So make sure you get the most out of them. I used to work in an organization like that, where everything was housed locally within the intranet, within the local area intranet setup. So there was no need for you to go outside for emails, and everything was just housed internet. If you internally, if you needed external email accounts, email services, sorry, they have corporate email that they use, and that's purposely for just external email communications. That's about it. So at the end of the day, your employees, you get the most, and an employer gets the most out of their employees because they have everything internally. Users are not found, on social media using corporate internet services for social media stuff or for your own personal stuff. But instead, everything is just relating to what the corporate uh, network resources. So that's a good way to control and manage or gain the most out of or get the most out of your employees within your organization. On that note, folks, this is how we wrap it up. So we have a really good setup over here, revolving a simple LAN, but does have a number of features. We had a web service enabled, DHCP configured. We had a route to allow packets to flow through the two depending on different networks. We had good implementation set up to allow information to flow across them. All right, folks, give this a shot, try it out, and if any challenges comes up, let me know, and I will go through it. On that note, folks, it's a wrap.